Welcome to Mind and Body in Harmony, the key to lasting wellness. Your thoughts, emotions, and physical health are deeply connected, often in ways we don't even realize. We are going to explore the fascinating relationship between the mind and body, highlighting how stress, mindset, and daily habits can impact overall well-being. You'll learn how awareness of this connection can help you restore balance, build resilience, and support your long-term health. Think for a moment about the last time you felt truly stressed. Maybe your heart was racing, your shoulders tightened, or your thoughts started to spiral. That physical reaction didn't come from the situation alone. It came from what your mind told your body about the situation. The truth is, our thoughts and beliefs shape how we experience the world, not just emotionally, but physically too. When we interpret something as overwhelming or hopeless, our body reacts as if we are under threat. The heart beats faster, muscles tense, and stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood the bloodstream. But if we see that same situation as something we can manage, maybe even something we can learn from, the body responds differently. The event itself hasn't changed, but our inner story has. Neuroscience shows us that our brains are constantly interpreting and predicting what will happen next. Every thought we have sends a message through neural pathways that influence our mood, our immune system, and even our digestion. In fact, researchers at Harvard found that just anticipating stress in a negative way can amplify its physiological effects, while approaching it with a mindset of, I can handle this, helps the body recover faster. This is why shifting our inner language is so powerful. Instead of saying, I'm falling behind, we might say, I have a lot to do, but I can take it one thing at a time. That small shift sends a calmer signal to the nervous system, allowing the brain's problem-solving center, the prefrontal cortex, to stay online instead of shutting down in panic mode. And it's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about awareness, noticing what we tell ourselves and asking, is this thought helping me or harming me right now? When we become aware of our thoughts, we create space to choose a response that supports our well-being instead of feeding our stress. There's a beautiful study from the University of Wisconsin that followed people who practiced mindfulness, which is simply the skill of paying attention on purpose without judgment. The researchers found that participants who regularly practiced mindfulness reported lower stress levels and showed reduced activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Their bodies literally reacted less intensely to everyday stressors. That is the mind shaping the body. So when we talk about the mind-body connection, it's not abstract or mystical. It's biological. Our thoughts trigger chemical messengers that communicate with every system in our body, from our heart rate to our immune function. Over time, positive mental habits can strengthen resilience, while chronic negative thinking can wear us down physically. Try this small exercise with me. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it go. Now, think of a challenge you're facing. Notice what words your mind attaches to it. Maybe it's too much, too hard, or I can't. Now, gently replace that phrase with something more supportive, like I can take one step, or I've handled challenges before. Did you notice how your body subtly relaxed? That is the shift. When we change the message, the body follows. Psychologist Kelly McGonigal calls this the biology of courage. She explains that stress itself isn't the enemy. It's our belief about stress that determines whether it strengthens or weakens us. When we meet challenges with self-compassion and confidence, our bodies release hormones like DHEA, a resilience-building counterpart to cortisol that helps us recover and adapt more efficiently. So as we move through this webinar, I invite you to think of your thoughts as signals, not facts. They're information your brain is sending out, but you have the power to tune the signal. The more we train the mind to respond with awareness and kindness, the more our bodies reflect that harmony. The mind and the body are always in conversation. We simply get to decide whether that conversation is one of fear and tension or one of calm and strength. Now let's talk about mindfulness, a word that gets used a lot, but at its core, it simply means paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. It's about becoming aware of what's happening inside and around us, rather than being swept away by it. What's incredible is that the simple act of awareness doesn't just make us feel calmer, it actually changes our brain and body in measurable ways. Researchers at Harvard used MRI scans to study people before and after participating in an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. What they found was remarkable. Participants had increased gray matter in the hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memory, and emotion regulation, and reduced density in the amygdala, the part that triggers fear and stress response. So in other words, mindfulness can literally rewire the brain to be less reactive and more balanced. And it doesn't stop at the brain. Mindfulness impacts the entire body through the nervous system. When we're stressed, our body activates what's called the fight or flight response. Our heart rate goes up, blood pressure rises, and cortisol levels spike. But when we practice mindfulness, even just for a few minutes, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural rest and digest mode. Our heart rate slows down, our breathing deepens, and the body begins to repair and restore itself. A review published in Psychosomatic Medicine found that people who practiced mindfulness regularly showed lower levels of inflammatory markers, such as C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, both of which are linked to chronic stress and disease. That means mindfulness doesn't just make us feel better, it supports physical healing too. It's also connected to the hormone oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. When we engage in mindfulness or compassionate meditation, oxytocin levels rise, helping us feel more connected, empathetic, and safe, even in stressful environments. Imagine what that means in our daily interactions. More patience, more kindness, and more space between a stressful moment and our reaction. Now, mindfulness doesn't mean sitting on a cushion for an hour in silence. Mindfulness and meditation are not exactly the same thing. You can be mindful at all times and meditate as a support practice to increase your mindfulness. It can be as simple as pausing to take 3 deep breaths before your next task, or noticing the taste of your morning coffee, or taking a slow walk and really feeling your feet on the ground. Let's take a brief moment together. Take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out through your mouth. As you breathe, simply notice how the air feels. Cool or warm, shallow or deep. Notice any sensations in your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. No need to change anything, just notice. That's mindfulness. It's the act of coming home to the body, right here, right now. And over time, this kind of gentle attention builds resilience. A study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that mindfulness meditation was as effective as certain medications for reducing anxiety symptoms in adults. Other research has linked consistent mindfulness practice to improve sleep, better immune function, and even lower blood pressure. Why? Because when the mind stops fighting the moment, the body stops bracing for impact. It's easy to underestimate how powerful that is. Every time we bring awareness to the present moment, we're sending the body a message. You're safe. And when the body feels safe, it can rest, heal, and focus. I like to think of mindfulness as a daily reset button. It's not about being perfect or peaceful all the time. It's about noticing when you've drifted away and then gently coming back. Each return strengthens the connection between mind and body, between awareness and well-being. So whether you have 5 minutes or 50, take a moment each day to pause, breathe, and tune in. It's one of the simplest and most scientifically proven ways to support your health, your focus, and your inner calm. We all know that exercise is good for us. It strengthens our muscles, helps control weight, supports our heart, and improves sleep. But what's really exciting is what it does for our brain. Exercise is not just a physical act. It's a deeply biological signal that changes how we think, feel, and even how we heal. When we move our bodies, we activate a kind of internal pharmacy. Within minutes, our brain releases a mix of chemicals like endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine that lift our mood and reduce pain. You've probably heard of the runner's high, but even gentle movement like walking or stretching can create that same shift in chemistry. These feel-good hormones are nature's way of saying you're safe, you're capable, and you're alive. Beyond that immediate boost, regular exercise actually changes the structure and function of the brain. It's a process called neuroplasticity. One of the most important molecules behind this is called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain cells. It helps new neurons grow and strengthens the connections between existing ones, especially in areas tied to learning, memory, and emotional regulation. A meta-analysis published in Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews found that consistent physical activity, particularly aerobic exercise like walking, cycling, or swimming, significantly increases BDNF levels. In other words, every time you move, you're helping your brain stay sharp and adaptable. There's also research from the Journal of Psychiatric Research showing that just 20 minutes of moderate exercise can reduce symptoms of anxiety and improve mood almost immediately. These effects aren't just psychological, they're hormonal. Exercise increases endorphins and dopamine, but it also helps regulate cortisol, the stress hormone. Over time, people who exercise regularly tend to have a more balanced cortisol rhythm, meaning their body is better at handling and recovering from stress. You might also be surprised to learn that exercise has immune benefits. Physical activity enhances circulation, allowing immune cells to move more efficiently throughout the body. That's one reason why regular movement can help reduce inflammation, which plays a major role in chronic diseases and mood disorders alike. And the benefits don't depend on intensity. A brisk walk during lunch, light yoga before bed, or even dancing while cooking, they all count. What matters most is consistency. The body thrives on rhythm. Regular movement, even in small amounts, signals safety to the nervous system and balance to the brain. Here's a quick visualization exercise you can try right now. Think about how you feel after sitting for hours. Maybe your shoulders tighten, your energy dips, and your mind starts to fog. Now imagine standing up, rolling your shoulders, and taking a short walk outside. Do you feel that slight lift? That's your body releasing tension and sending fresh oxygen and nutrients to your brain. And it's a reset available anytime you need it. Interestingly, studies have found that people who combine mindfulness and movement, things like yoga, tai chi, or mindful walking, experience even greater benefits. These activities help synchronize breath with motion, creating harmony between the body's physical rhythm and the mind's focus. A team at the University of Illinois found that just 20 minutes of mindful walking improved attention and working memory compared to walking without mindful awareness. So the next time you're moving your body, just try pairing it with gentle focus. Notice your breath, your heartbeat, or the way your feet feel on the ground. That awareness amplifies the body's natural chemistry of calm and clarity. The takeaway is simple. Exercise isn't just a way to look better or get stronger. It's one of the most reliable tools we have to regulate mood, sharpen focus, and build resilience. It boosts brain health in the same way mindfulness strengthens emotional health, by creating new patterns of balance and awareness. So if you ever find yourself saying, "I don't have time to work out," remember this. You're not just moving your body, you're caring for your mind. Even 10 minutes of movement is an investment in your clarity, energy, and peace of mind. So every step, every stretch, every breath in motion sends the same message to the body and brain. I'm here, I'm capable, and I'm taking care of myself. On the topic of exercise, let's talk about one of the physical benefits you may not know. This is directed towards our female listeners. As women in particular age, the body starts to go through some big hormonal changes, especially as estrogen levels naturally begin to drop. One of the lesser talked about side effects of this shift is how quickly bone density can decline. Many women don't notice it happening until they face stiffness, soreness, or even a fracture later in life. But the good news is that strength training is one of the most powerful tools we have to slow that process down. Studies now show that lifting weights, even moderate weights, sends a message to your bones saying, "Hey, we still need you to be strong." When your muscles pull on your bones during strength training, it stimulates the cells responsible for rebuilding bone tissue. Researchers have found that peri- and postmenopausal women who consistently strength train see improvements in bone density at the hips, the spine, and the legs. And these aren't extreme workouts. We're talking about lifting weights 2 to 3 times per week, focusing on controlled, functional movements. And the results are even more promising for women that lift heavy weights. Now, I'm not talking about bodybuilder level, but lifting your max capacity at least once per workout, maybe 3 times a week, can have tremendous results. What's encouraging is that it's never too late to start. Even women who have never lifted before can still see bone-building benefits. You don't need heavy barbells to make a difference. Dumbbells, resistance bands, kettlebells, bodyweight exercises, and machines can all help strengthen the muscles that protect your bones. With consistency, you're not just getting stronger, you're building long-term protection for your mobility and your independence. Let's talk a little bit more about the concept of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. It's the process by which our brain changes in response to learning, experience, and even injury. For much of history, scientists believed that the brain was static after childhood, that once certain pathways were formed, they just couldn't change. However, modern neuroscience has revealed that the brain remains dynamic and adaptable, capable of rewiring itself at any age. This adaptability allows us to acquire new skills, recover from trauma, and even reshape deeply ingrained habits and thought patterns. At its core, neuroplasticity operates through the principle that neurons that fire together wire together. So each time we repeat a thought, emotion, or behavior, the neural pathways associated with it grow stronger, while those that are unused begin to weaken. A concept sometimes referred to as use it or lose it. For example, when someone practices a new language or instrument, their brain strengthens the circuits involved in those activities. Similarly, when mindfulness or gratitude practices are repeated over time, the brain's emotional regulation centers grow more active, while areas associated with stress or fear may calm down. There are 2 main types of neuroplasticity, structural and functional. Structural plasticity involves the physical changes in the brain's architecture, such as the growth of new synapses, neurons, or dendrites. While functional plasticity refers to the brain's ability to shift functions from damaged areas to healthy ones. This is why stroke survivors, for example, can sometimes regain lost abilities through rehabilitation. Ultimately, neuroplasticity reminds us that change is always possible. So whether it's healing from emotional trauma, learning new skills, or building resilience, our brains are constantly reshaping themselves in response to our environment, our focus, and our habits. By consciously choosing what we practice and pay attention to, we can literally train our brains to work in ways that support growth, well-being, and greater adaptability. And remember, physical exercise encourages neuroplasticity. We've talked about how mindfulness changes the brain and how movement supports the body. Now, let's explore how the two meet inside us through something called interoception. Interoception is a sense of the body. It's your body's way of signaling internal states, such as your heart pounding after running or the feeling of being hungry. It's a link between the body and the mind. It connects physical sensations to emotional experiences and helps you understand your feelings and needs. It also allows the body to maintain homeostasis. This is your internal balance, by alerting you to what you need, like water or rest. Now, how interoception works is that sensory neurons, particularly those in the vagus nerve, transmit information from your organs, like the heart, lungs, and gut, to your brain. The brain processes these signals, and areas like the insula are key to interpreting them and creating your conscious awareness of how you feel. For most people, this is a subconscious process, but you become consciously aware of it when you feel your heart race or feel hungry. Now, how interoception affects you is that it is integral to emotional experiences. For example, the physical sensation of anxiety, like a racing heart, is interpreted through interoception. A good sense of interoception allows you to act on your body's needs, such as eating when you feel hungry or taking deep breaths when you feel anxious. Poor interoception can make it difficult to know when you're hungry, thirsty, or need to use the restroom, and it is linked to anxiety, eating disorders, and other conditions. It is simply our ability to sense what is happening inside the body. Things like our heartbeat, breathing, hunger, tension, or fatigue. It's how we know we're thirsty before reaching for a glass of water, or how we feel butterflies before a big meeting. It's the body's internal feedback system, constantly sending information to the brain about how we're doing. Now, here's the amazing part. When we learn to listen to these internal signals instead of pushing them away or ignoring them, we gain one of the most powerful tools for emotional regulation and well-being. Research from neuroscientist Bud Craig and others has shown that the insula, the part of the brain responsible for interoception, is deeply connected to our emotional centers. So when we're tuned into our body signals, we become more aware of how stress, joy, or anxiety show up physically. And that awareness gives us the chance to respond with care, rather than react out of habit. So for example, you might notice your jaw tightening before you realize you're frustrated. Or maybe your stomach knots up when you read an upsetting email. If we ignore these signals, tension builds. But if we pause and notice, my body is telling me I'm stressed right now, we can take a breath, soften our muscles, and reset before that emotion takes over. Now this is mindful self-regulation in action. We're using awareness of the body to influence the mind. A 2018 study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that participants who practiced mindfulness and body awareness exercises showed increased interoceptive accuracy and reduced emotional reactivity. In simple terms, they became better at noticing their body's signals early, which helped them stay calmer under stress. Let's try something together again. Take a slow breath in through your nose and exhale gently through your mouth. bring your attention to your chest. Can you feel your heartbeat or the rise and the fall of your breath? Next, notice your shoulders. Are they relaxed or slightly raised? And your hands, are they cool or warm, loose or tight? You don't need to fix or change anything. Just notice. That's interoceptive awareness, a gentle tuning in that lets your body and mind reconnect. Many of us spend our days in our heads, solving problems, managing schedules, helping others. But the body carries a wisdom the mind often overlooks. When we learn to check in throughout the day, noticing hunger, tiredness, tension, calm, we start to align how we feel with how we act. The practice is simple. Pause, scan, name, and breathe. So pause, just stop for a few seconds. Scan, notice the sensations. Where is the tension or the ease? Name it. Just label it gently. Tight shoulders or tired eyes. And then breathe. Take one slow breath to release and reset. Over time, this becomes second nature. Instead of getting swept away by stress or emotion, you can sense it rising and soften before it overwhelms you. Mindfulness expert John Kabat-Zinn often says, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." Interoception is that surfboard. It helps you ride the waves of emotion without being pulled under. And it's not just about stress. Interoceptive awareness supports physical health too. Studies have linked higher interoceptive accuracy to better heart rate variability, which is a marker of resilience, improved digestion, and even stronger immune response. When the mind and body are in sync, every system works more efficiently. So as you go about your day, try checking in with your body like you check in with a friend. Ask, what do you need right now? Sometimes the answer will be movement. Sometimes it's rest. And sometimes it's just a deep breath. The more we listen, the more the body trusts us. And that trust is the foundation of harmony between mind and body. We've explored how our thoughts, movement, and awareness shape our well-being. But there's another powerful factor we often overlook: what we feed both our body and our brain. The food we eat is more than fuel. It's information, a language that our cells, hormones, and brain chemistry understand. Every meal sends messages to our body about how to feel, how to focus, and how to repair. And when that message is nourishing, our body and mind respond with energy, clarity, and balance. Let's start with what science tells us. One of the most well-researched and dietary patterns linked to mental and physical health is the Mediterranean diet. It's rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, olive oil, nuts, fish, and legumes. In a large-scale Predimed study, older adults who followed a Mediterranean diet, supplemented with olive oil or nuts, showed not only improved cardiovascular health, but also better cognitive function over time. Their brains aged more slowly. A different study, known as the SMILES trial, looked at how food can affect mood. Participants with moderate to severe depression were divided into two groups. One received social support, and the other received nutritional coaching based on Mediterranean-style eating. After 12 weeks, those who improved their diets experienced significantly greater reductions in depressive symptoms. Some even went into remission. So the connection is clear. Our brains thrive when we eat whole, nutrient-dense foods, and they struggle when we rely heavily on processed, sugary, or nutrient-poor options. So why does that happen? Because the brain is an energy-hungry organ. It uses about 20% of everything we consume. Poor nutrition, especially diets high in refined sugars and unhealthy fats, can cause inflammation in the body and brain. Over time, this inflammation is linked to cognitive decline, anxiety, and depression. A 2023 study published in JAMA Neurology found that people who consumed high amounts of ultra-processed foods, things like packaged snacks, sugary drinks, and fast food, experienced faster rates of cognitive decline over 8 years compared to those who ate minimally processed foods. It's not about cutting out every treat, but being mindful of how much our daily intake comes from foods that truly nourish us versus foods that simply comfort us. And comfort food is okay. It's part of being human. But we can start to redefine comfort as care. Real comfort is the kind that supports your energy, your focus, and your long-term well-being. Nutrition doesn't just affect the brain directly, it also impacts what scientists call the gut-brain axis. That's the communication network between the digestive system and the central nervous system. Inside our gut live trillions of microorganisms known as the microbiome. These bacteria help digest food, produce vitamins, and release neurotransmitters like serotonin, the same chemical that regulates mood. When we nourish those bacteria with fiber-rich foods like vegetables, beans, fruits, and whole grains, they thrive, and so does our mood. When we starve them with processed foods or excess sugar, our mood and energy can take a hit. It's fascinating to realize that 90% of our body's serotonin is actually produced in the gut. You might think of it this way. A healthy gut makes for a calmer, clearer mind. And now exercise also plays into this. Movement improves circulation and supports hormone balance. But it also helps regulate appetite and digestion. When we move regularly and eat mindfully, we create a healthy rhythm, one that stabilizes blood sugar, energy, and emotional balance throughout the day. Here's a practical way to apply this. At your next meal, before eating, pause for just a moment. Notice the colors and smells of your food. Take a breath and express gratitude, even silently, for what you're about to receive. Then eat slowly enough to really taste it. This simple act of mindful eating supports digestion, lowers stress, and helps your body register fullness naturally. When we combine awareness with nourishment, we bridge that mind-body connection in one of the most tangible ways possible. We begin to feel the effects of what we eat, not just on our waistline, but in our mood, focus, and energy. So here's the takeaway. The mind and body are always in conversation, and food is one of their main languages. Choose foods that send messages of vitality and calm. Foods that grow from the earth, not just from a factory. And remember, perfection isn't the goal. Awareness is. When you start noticing how your body responds to different foods, you're strengthening that interoceptive awareness we talked about earlier. You're becoming fluent in your body's signals. As one researcher beautifully said, the way we eat is the way we live. When we nourish ourselves with attention, gratitude, and whole foods, we feed both the brain and the heart. Let's talk about the silent disruptor. Chronic inflammation is often called a silent disruptor because it works quietly in the background, sometimes for years, before showing up as a diagnosable condition. When the immune system stays switched on for too long, the constant release of inflammatory chemicals begins to damage tissues, organs, and blood vessels. Over time, this ongoing stress can contribute to a wide range of health problems. Here are some of the most common conditions linked to long-term, low-grade inflammation: cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, autoimmune conditions, arthritis and joint degeneration, cognitive decline and dementia, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, obesity and difficulty losing weight, chronic fatigue, and increased cancer risk. Inflammation is one of those words we hear all the time, but it often feels a little abstract. So at its core, inflammation is simply your body's way of protecting itself. If you cut your finger or catch a cold, inflammation helps you heal. That's the good kind. The problem is when inflammation becomes an everyday, full-body response rather than a short-term one. This chronic low-grade inflammation can be triggered by a lot of things: stress, poor sleep, lack of movement, highly processed foods, excess sugar, and even carrying extra visceral fat around the midsection. None of these things are bad in isolation, but over time, they can keep your immune system switched on when it doesn't need to be. When that happens, the body has a harder time repairing itself because it's too busy staying in defense mode. You may feel chronic inflammation in subtle ways, maybe as fatigue, brain fog, aching joints, bloating, low mood, or feeling puffy around the midsection. Left unchecked, it can also play a role in bigger health conditions like those we mentioned before. In other words, inflammation isn't just about discomfort, it affects how well your body functions today and how healthy it stays in the future. Now, the flip side of all of this is empowering. The choices we make each day can dramatically lower inflammation. Eating whole foods, prioritizing sleep, getting regular movement, managing stress, and maintaining strong muscles all help quiet the immune system and bring the body back into balance. Even small changes like more colorful vegetables, a little bit more protein, or even a 10-minute walk after meals can make a noticeable difference. As we wrap up, I want to bring all of these ideas, the science, the stories, the practices, back into something simple and human. We've explored how our thoughts shape our physical state, how mindfulness calms the body and rewires the brain, how movement balances our hormones and energy, how tuning into body sensations help us self-regulate, and how the food we eat literally fuels our mood and focus. But the real magic happens not in knowing these things, it happens in living them, even in small ways. So let's talk about what that looks like day to day. Imagine your well-being as a conversation between your mind, your body, and your environment. Each choice you make is a word in that dialogue. Some words calm and connect, others agitate and exhaust. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to become fluent in your own language of balance. Here are a few gentle habits that can help you stay in harmony with yourself. First, begin the day with awareness. Before you reach for your phone or start your to-do list, take one slow, intentional breath. Ask yourself, what kind of energy do I want to bring into the day? That simple pause can shift your entire nervous system toward calm and focus. Even 1 minute of stillness can set the tone for the hours ahead. Second, move your body regularly, not as punishment or obligation, but as gratitude. Think of movement as medicine and joy, whether it's a brisk walk, stretching between tasks, or dancing in your kitchen. Movement tells your brain, I'm alive, I'm safe, and I'm capable. Consistency matters more than intensity. 10 mindful minutes a day can completely change your energy and mood. Third, check in with your body. Throughout the day, ask yourself, what do I need right now? Maybe it's water, rest, a breath, or even laughter. The body whispers long before it screams, and when we learn to listen, we can respond with compassion instead of crisis. Fourth, eat with intention. Try to make at least one meal a day a mindful one. Notice the colors, the smells, the flavors. Choose foods that nourish rather than numb. And if you have a day where that doesn't happen, that's okay too. The goal is awareness, not perfection. Fifth, create a closing ritual for your day. Our minds and bodies need signals that it's time to rest. This could be a short walk after dinner, writing down 3 things you're grateful for, or simply taking 3 slow breaths before bed. That small act tells your body, you did enough today. When these small habits start to weave together, something shifts. We begin to feel less like we're surviving and more like we're participating fully in our own lives. I like to remind people that wellness isn't about controlling everything. It's about connection. When we nurture the mind-body connection, we remember that our inner world and our outer actions are not separate. Our thoughts influence our physiology. Our movement influences our mood. Our nutrition influences our focus. And our awareness, our ability to pause, to breathe, to notice, ties it all together. So if you only take one thing away from this, let it be this. Your mind and body are always in conversation. You can't always control what life brings your way, but you can choose how you listen, how you respond, and how you care for yourself in the process. So let's close with one last breath together. Inhale deeply through the nose and exhale slowly through the mouth. Feel your feet grounded, your breath steady, and your awareness calm. That's balance, and it's available to you anytime you choose to come back to it. So thank you for taking this time for yourself and for honoring the incredible partnership between your mind and your body.